everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Friday race of the day. It is the Grade 3 Doubledogdare Race 9 at Keeneland. This one going the mile and a 16th distance for the fillies and mare on the dirt course. Before we get into the handicapping, we do have our Kentucky Derby packages now available. If you're going to be shopping for Kentucky Derby or Oaks PPs, just buy them all in a bundle. You'll also get the betting strategies, player's guide, and clock reports. Find out more information about Kentucky Derby packages at shop.drf.com. But this being the DRF race of the day, you can get free past performances for this race on Friday. It's very easy. Just go to drf.com, create a free account, and you get free classic, formulator, and Timeform US past performances. Mike, let's throw up this field of 7 runners, and there's some quality among this group. A few horses starting their 2025 campaigns that could be major players in this older female division later in the year, but they've all got some questions to answer as they look to get back to their better form from 2024.
Yeah, good field overall, and I feel like a really, really well-matched field as well at the top, David. Here, the 5 shortest prices here on the morning line, you could just make a reasonable case for any one of those horses to win this race. The 3 longer shots I thought were a little harder to get to. Kind of feels like the kind of race where they just need to show up with their good race, and then we'll see who gets the best trip, I guess.
Yeah, we've got some horses who achieved some nice things last year that are coming back in this race, including 3 horses that contested the 2024 Kentucky Oaks, including 2 of the top players in that race in terms of the betting, Just FYI, and Tarifa. They're the second and third choices on the morning line to the number 6 Candied, who did some nice things through the second half of last year, including finishing third behind Torpedo Anna in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. To get a sense of how this field might sort themselves out into that clubhouse turn, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And Mike, this is one of those where I think it's going to be up to the jockeys and the connections as to who really wants the lead in this spot, because as you know, the Timeform US pace projector, it's based on the prior speed and pace figures these horses have run coming in here. So kind of capturing who's running the fastest paced races and how they've been ridden. And Just FYI has shown speed in some fast paced races. I think it's going to be up to the connections whether or not they want to have her on the front end. She's going to take up this position as is depicted on the pace projector.
I kind of felt the same way about it. I mean, I won't be shocked if she makes the lead in this race. She's breaking from the rail. She has plenty of speed to get there if that's where they want her to be. We'll see how they decide to play it this time. The longer I looked at this race, David, the more I felt like the 5, Tarifa, might wind up on the early lead in this race. We'll see how they decide to play it.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Mike, because you look at the recent PPs of the number 1, Just FYI, and the number 4, Dreaming of Mo, and they've had a little more success coming from off the pace recently than they have going to the front end. So maybe that leads their connections to not be so aggressive and allows a horse like the number 5, Tarifa, who is the naturally 3rd fastest pace on the pace projector, but could find herself on the front end with an aggressive ride. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Just FYI. She was the 2-year-old champion in this division going back to 2023, had a decent 3-year-old season, though it was cut short halfway through after a poor effort in the Acorn. This was her comeback race last time at Gulfstream Park to kick off her 4-year-old campaign, and she was vying for favoritism here. There are actually 2 odds-on choices in here, her and Gunsong, bet down to 4 to 5, but it was the 16-1 upsetter Literate who got the better of both of them as they were each returning from layoffs in this spot, Mike. That one snuck up the rail and was able to win for connections that are pretty dangerous at Gulfstream Park. Feels like a race that Just FYI might have just needed, though.
Yeah, I feel like, listen, if you want to, be kind to her, you just have to say she really needed a race off the layoff, because I don't know about you, David. I thought she was, pretty disappointing in that spot. She made the lead. She did look a little fresh to me. And then whenever I see, the rider, Junior Alvarado in this case, just sort of on a clear lead, but sitting 3-4 wide around the track and not really trying to take control of the race, it makes me feel like maybe he was on a short horse there, but you still kind of would have liked to see her put up a little bit of a fight there in the stretch. I mean, that long shot when it ran right by her up the inside. I don't know. I was disappointed last time. I know she's better than that. And maybe this is just the kind of situation where she won't be the favorite this time, maybe. And you can give her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I wanted to look back at her work tab going into that race and see maybe a short horse based on the works, but Bilmont did get 10 works into her prior to that return race. However, it kind of does feel like he's even turned the screws further since then, getting that 6 furlong 113 drill into her, so maybe she'll be a fitter horse for this second start off the layoff. The number 2, Jin Jin, is going to be one of the bigger prices in this race. She is one that did compete in the 2024 Kentucky Oaks, though she was no factor that day at a big price and was off for a long time after that, came back earlier this year for the Brad Cox Bar. start, didn't do much running at all in a second level allowance race. Now Calumet has switched her into the Brendan Walsh barn. And Mike, she just really needs to turn things around and run by far the best race of her career to beat a group like this.
Yeah, she at this stage of the game, she's just not fast enough to beat these horses. And I'm also not sure that she has, the right running style necessarily, because they may not go that fast early in here, David. And it just feels like she's going to need maybe a little bit of a pace collapse here to get a piece of this.
The number 3 Neon Icon is another 4-year-old that's going to need to find a little bit of improvement coming in here. She did get a race in off the layoff earlier this year in the Royal Delta at Gulfstream Park, but that wasn't the right situation for her. It was the short run to the first turn going a mile in the 16th. She drew the far outside post 10 of 10 and stumbled at the break. So she was just really behind the 8 ball in that race and could never really get into the mix. But Mike, I go back to her 3-year-old season, and while she was progressive and improving her speed figures all the time, she never really put forth an effort that led me to believe that she was among the better runners in her division. And I think she's going to be successful in a race like this.
Yeah, it's a real question how much further she can develop here. Because I'm with you. I felt like maybe early on in that 3-year-old campaign, she had a chance to be pretty good and maybe play toward the top of the division. It never really happened for her. I did like her win over this course in October when she closed that race down, going a little bit longer than this, but it wasn't a fast race. You're not supposed to care about that most recent start. I mean, she was so far outrun early in there after she stumbled that she had no chance to get into it. But how much can she really improve here, David? And what kind of trip can she get?
The number 4, Dreaming of Mo, might be one of the tougher calls in this race because she's shown talent on occasion and she's done it on different surfaces. And she does seem very versatile when it comes to surface. She runs on turf, she runs on synthetic, and she even owns a victory on the dirt in a race that was rained off the turf at Churchill Downs going back to last October. That was a sloppy dirt track, but she was visually impressive that day. And Mike, since then, she got back to the synthetic course at Gulfstream, earned a victory. Her last race troubles me a little bit because she got to a very easy lead over the all-weather surface at Turfway as the even money favorite and was unable to seal the deal against a weaker field in this.
Exactly. And she just needs to run better. She does seem like she handles dirt okay. That win and that sloppy track race last October, I mean, man, she got a perfect trip in that race, but she won it so easily, and it didn't seem like the surface was any kind of an issue for her. She was also, when you go through that field, I mean, she was just facing all turf horses in that race, and this is a totally different ballgame.
And going back to each of those last 2 victories on the synthetic and the dirt, she got the same trip each time, held up in the pocket behind the leaders. So I wonder if they're going to look at that and maybe not be so aggressive with her in this spot. The number 5 is Tarifa, and she was one of the top 3-year-old fillies heading into last year's Kentucky Oaks, all victories in the Rachel Alexandra and the Fairgrounds Oaks, and was one of the favorites behind Torpedo Anna in the Kentucky Oaks. The trip didn't work out that day. Didn't seem like she loved the sloppy track. Since then, though, Mike, she's come back and run okay. She earned a victory in the Mother Goose, picked up some pieces in stakes races around that, but she hasn't really shown much progression. I will say she got in a race off the layoff last time in the Beholder Mile, and watching that race unfold, it was one of those races out in California that was dominated up front by 2 Bafferts, and she never looked like she really had a chance to tangle with those horses, but at least she ran one of her top buyers off the layoff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the figure just suggests that she's the same horse that she was last year, and maybe even she can move forward off of that and get a little faster finally, David, because that's the one thing that it feels like she was missing as a 3-year-old last year. She just never got any faster. She's obviously competitive with the top horses in this division. She shows up, she gets the right trips in her races. She can be on the leader, she can be just off of it. She can go longer, she can go a little shorter. I mean, there are things to like about her. She's just not that flashy. I'm not really convinced that she has a lot of improvement left in her. And I wonder, if one of these other horses here, particularly the 1 and the 6, if they come back here and take a step forward here now as 4-year-olds, I just felt like Tarifa could be in pretty big trouble.
The number 6, Candied, is the 8-5 morning line favorite in this race. And looking at her recent performances, you can understand why. She's placed in a series of grade 1 events, just barely lost the Alabama 3-back in a heartbreaker. And since then, she chased some of the best horses that are out there among her gender in Idiomatic and Torpedo Anna, picking up 3rd place in both the Spinster and the Breeders' Cup Distaff to conclude her 3-year-old campaign. Watching back those races, Mike, I thought she got pretty good trips each time, and she was just no match for those winners in either spot. But she is a horse who's run speed figures that make her competitive here. I don't really think she's ever going to get back to that 99 buyer she earned at Monmouth last summer, but she might not have to against this group.
Yeah, she might. She might not. She's given away a little recency here. Some of these other rivals have already had a start, and she hasn't. We'll see if it makes a difference. This is her Breeders' Cup. And all I would say about this, David, is she runs her race in here. She's trying really hard through the stretch. She's dead game here, and she's going to finish third, but she can't threaten these 1-2 finishers in here. She ran fine. You mentioned the last 2 starts where no real excuses. I would just say my take on the spinster is not that it matters. She wasn't winning, and Occult finished second. She finished third. I thought she ran the second best race that day, just sort of doing some chasing there, trying to beat the favorite, and she paid the price. I thought she's pretty good. I don't know. I don't want to take her at 8-5 in this race if that's how they wind up betting it, but she's pretty good and she could easily win this race.
Rounding out the field on the outside is the number 7 Occult. She is actually a 5-year-old taking on some 4-year-olds who are coming in with credentials. And Mike, she's one who earned this big, impressive victory going back to her 3-year-old season in the Monmouth Oaks and has not visited the winner's circle since then. And not for lack of trying. She's been in some spots where she's taken money and was supposed to be successful, including this last race that we'll take a look at, the Grade 3 Go for Wand, when they cut her back to the 1-turn mile, which I think works really well for her. She's a horse with a big turn of foot, and a faster pace around 1 turn is supposed to help a horse like Occult be successful. And she makes that big sweeping move to potentially look like she's going to take this race over at mid-stretch and just hangs a little bit at the end, Mike. And I feel like it's become a pattern with her where she gets there at the 8th pole and just doesn't quite finish her races off. And against a field of this quality, I don't love to see that attribute.
That's the same take, David, I have on this, especially going back and watching that race back right there. She had the pace in front of her. They got down to the 8th pole in that race, and it looked like she had all the momentum and was going to go by that leader, and she just never got there. Actually just barely held second in there. Even if you want to, like, I go back to the Saratoga race where they dropped her and she's 4-5. I know that was a little bit of a speed favoring track, but she had to look at that thing in the stretch. And I don't know. I think you're probably supposed to run down Tough Street in that race, even with the track in her favor. I don't know. She's another one. She could win here. I didn't really want to bet her.
Let's throw up our picks for this Friday race of the day, the Grade 3 Doubledogdare. And Mike, it sounds like we're both a little reluctant to land on the horses that we have because they do have questions to answer. The number 1, Just FYI, she's shown that talent from earlier in her career. She just has to move forward here, second off the layoff.
Yeah, I ultimately just decided to give her one. She was off of a pretty significant layoff last time. I was really disappointed with the performance, but maybe she just needed that start. She had a right to anyway. I'll give her one chance here, David, to sort of jump up and take a step forward here as a 4-year-old. I really struggled with this race. I looked at it longer than I wanted to. It was tough to make a pick for it. I went 1-6.
And I've personally never been the biggest fan of the horse that I put on top, the number 5, Tarifa, but I could just envision her getting the right trip in this race if Laurent Giroux gets a little more aggressive than those drawn inside, gets to the front end, and maybe can lead this field every step of the way. That's typically a trip that can be dangerous at Keeneland. So 5-1-7-6 for me and 1-6-5-7 for Mike in the Friday race of the day, the Grade 3 Doubledogdare. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.